Three, two. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Get the Facts. This is Ruth Neal with the City of Syracuse, and we are getting the facts on all things voting today with our Board of Election Commissioners, Michele Sardo and Dustin Czarny. That's a tongue twister. Good to have you both here today.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. Michele, I'm going to ask you, what is the Board of Elections?
The Board of Elections is a group of, we have a staff that we get prepared for elections. We program ballots, we prepare the machines to take the ballots, we prepare absentees, we register voters, we register absentee voters, and we get everything ready for election day and early voting.
And we also are, in New York State, it's a bipartisan Board of Elections. That's why you have two different commissioners here. And that way each party has equal representation from the top right down to the election inspectors you see on election day.
Yes.
That makes me and a lot of people feel good, for those who do believe in conspiracy theories. But it's good to know that, we're working at being equitable in our elections. But Michele, you mentioned that you're getting voters ready. For both of you, Michele and Dustin, who does get to vote in the United States in the elections, and what does voting look like this year? I mean, what are the deadlines? When do we vote? Because we clearly see voting has already started.
Voting has already started. Saturday was the first day for early voting, and it runs until November 1st. The hours that we have in Onondaga County are on our website at ongov.net. And yes, we are preparing voters to make sure that they are registered to vote and that they are in the poll pads once they get to their polling locations where they're going to vote, either on early voting or election day. That way it's a smooth go on when you go into the polling place and you tell the inspector your name and they just look you up and you get your ballot. You just run right through a smooth transition. If you're not registered to vote, then you'd have to come in and do a court order and talk to a judge, either during early voting or election day.
Yeah, and we have October 9th was the time to register to vote. That was the last deadline. And if you didn't register, you won't be able to vote in this election unless you get a court order. But what's great is you can check right on our website at onvote.net. You can check and see your registration, where your polling place is, and if you've sent in an absentee ballot, what's the status of it. And by tomorrow, if you want to get an absentee ballot, you can still apply.
So that's really good to hear. And I want to go back and revisit one more part of that question. So the registration deadline for voting has passed, but you can go on ongov.net and check just to ensure that you are registered to vote. And while you're there, you can check your polling places.
Yeah,
also, sample ballots are on there too.
Yeah, onvote.net, not ongov. Although that is our county website, we have a direct link right to the board, so you don't have to go through the departments. Onvote.net.
Onvote.net. Awesome. And another question. There are a lot of questions about who can vote. Sometimes we have reentry population, people coming home, trying to figure out if they can vote. There are a lot of students that are traveling back and forth that may not be able to be home right now. So who exactly can vote? And
Yeah, so a citizen of the United States, if you are a citizen and over 18 years of age, you can vote. Now, student populations have the choice to vote either where they are at college or where they are from. If they're coming from a different part of the state or country. If they're in New York State, they can transport that registration up to here in Onondaga County on election day by doing an affidavit ballot. However, if they want to vote by absentee in their home county, if they want to vote on their own ballot for their own congressman for where they grew up, they have to contact their board of elections in their county and get that absentee sent to them.
all right. And with everything there is that makes voting hard, doing it in a pandemic, I'm sure makes it harder. What are some of the things that Board of Elections can let people know that you're doing to keep people safe during voting, and some tips you can give people on how to be safe during voting?
wear your mask. Make sure you have your mask on. You're standing in line. I've seen the lines. They're 6 feet apart, everybody with their masks on. And our inspectors are making sure that they're cleaning up, wiping their pens down, wiping the poll pads down, the counters where they're voting, and the machines. They're making sure everything is clean and sanitized. That's a full-time job for our inspectors alone.
Yeah, and making sure that we're protecting our neighbors by wearing that mask, but also keeping the 6-foot distance. We have sanitation supplies there. We have extra masks for people who forgot, but we have been pleasantly surprised by this first weekend of early voting. With 10,000 people who've come out, we have had no issues with people not wanting to wear masks.
No.
And so that good job, Onondaga County and City of Syracuse.
Shout outs to all of our early voters. That's wonderful to hear. So I wear my mask, I've registered, I go and I vote early. I'm still a conspiracy theorist. How do I know that my vote counted? I think that's the hardest part for everyone, to feel like their one vote made a difference.
We count every vote. But, people don't understand that, there's a lot of talk this year about how we may not know our winners on election night because of mail balloting. And every year we keep hearing that absentee ballots are only counted if it's close. That's just not true.
Untrue.
Count every vote every year. That the election is not official until Michele and I sign off on it and it's certified. And that won't be until like 2 or 3 weeks after the election. So no matter what media says, no matter what, it's our signatures that count. So
yes.
That is very reassuring to hear. Every vote, every time, every person.
Yes.
All right. Well, then I have one last question for you two. Any last suggestions or recommendations you can give to our voters and even some of our volunteers, our voter advocates out there, as I like to call them?
Be patient. Be patient. You're going to wait in long lines, especially on the weekends. We're not too sure what's going to happen during the week because everybody is back to work. But yes, be patient with our inspectors and our workers that are at these polling locations.
And act early. If you want an absentee ballot to skip some of these lines, do that today. Get that done. Go to onvote.net and apply. That'll be up till midnight tomorrow. And if you
we are not open till midnight tomorrow, though. We're only open till 8.
We're not, but the website is. The website is. But also, if you have mobility, if you have a car, and you may want to think about going to some of the sites that are for early voting that are not as used, such as Armin Magnarelli and Southwest Community Center or Lafayette, which is right off of 81. Especially if you're out in the DeWitt suburbs or the south end of the city of Syracuse, maybe go down to Lafayette to vote instead of crowding into some of the other sites, especially next weekend.
All right, Michele. Thank you, Michele. Thank you, Dustin. I think you've answered all of our questions, and thank you for making voting possible this year. I'm sure it was a Herculean feat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, Michele,